Hey guys, welcome to JPlays. I am Iceman. This is my playthrough of Warcraft 3 The Frozen Throne. We're now on to Chapter 7, Part 3 of the Scourge campaign, entitled Ascent to the Upper Kingdom. Moments later, at the entrance to the Upper Kingdom.
We're running out of time, Anubarak. How far are we from the exit?
Not far. We have entered the Upper Kingdom. The exit should lead us to the base of the glacier itself. However, there are still hidden traps and pitfalls to account for.
Take cover!
Yes.
The entire passage collapsed. There's no time to dig through this. I'll have to move quickly and find my own way out. Hopefully Anubarak and the others survived. Tread lightly.
Oh, there's a timer?
Frostmourne hungers. Your pain shall be legendary. Finally. I'll be singed if I get too close to those flames. Lich King. Finally. More of the Nerubian's blasted mechanisms. I'll have to time this perfectly. This is more like it. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it.
Ah.
Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. I'll be singed if I get too close to those flames. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Finally. Ah, at last. I'll need this gold for when I reach the glacier. Frostmourne hungers.
Oh, there's gold as well.
You will know endless torment. Now more of the Nerubian's blasted mechanisms. I'll have to time this perfectly. Your pain shall be legendary. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. More of the Nerubian's blasted mechanisms. I'll have to time this perfectly. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Ah, at last. Finally. Ah, at last. Another quake? Finally. You will know endless torment. This is more like it. Finally. Ah, at last. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Finally. Ah, at last. Now, Frostmourne. Finally. Ah, at last. Finally. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. Finally. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Finally. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. I must find a way across this strange obstacle. Last. You will know endless torment. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. At last.
Faithless coward.
Frostmourne hungers.
Our hero has been killed.
More than Nerubian's blasted mechanisms. I'll have to time this perfectly. This is more like it. At last. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Now, Frostmourne. Another quake? Frostmourne hungers. At last. Frostmourne hungers. At last. You will end this torment. Frostmourne hungers. For the Lich King. Now, Frostmourne. At last. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Finally.
Your pain shall be legendary.
This is more like it. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. This is more like it. At last. Frostmourne hungers.
Faithless coward.
This is more like it. At last. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Now, Frostmourne. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. At last. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. At last.
Oh,
Finally. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. At last.
I must find a way across this strange obstacle.
Frostmourne hungers. At last. This is more like it. Finally. This is more like it. At last. This is more like it. Finally. At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers.
wow, that's smooth.
Your pain shall be legendary. I'll make sure you suffer.
Finally. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last.
Faithless coward.
Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. At last. Finally. At last. Now, Frostmourne. For the Lich King. This is more like it.
Faithless coward.
Finally. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it.
Oh, come on, let me out of here.
At last. Frostmourne hungers.
Come on.
At last.
Anubarak, you made it. I see now why the Lich King chose you as his champion, Death Knight. Few men could have survived this labyrinth alone.
This is more like it. Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. No one orders
I know.
me around. This is more like it.
Another earthquake. We must hurry, Death Knight.
Something's breaking through. Defensive positions! This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. You will know endless torment. Your pain shall be legendary. This is more like it. Now, Frostmourne. You will know endless torment. Now, Frostmourne. Finally. Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it.
We're running out of time. We must find the exit.
At last. Finally. Faithless coward. More gold. This might help us later. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. At last.
They're blocking the way to the exit. We'll have to fight our way through them to reach it.
Now, Frostmourne. I'll make sure you suffer. At last. For the Lich King. I'll make sure you suffer. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers.
Inventory is
For the Lich King. Faithless coward. Finally. I'll make sure you suffer. No one orders me around. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. At last. This is more like it. Finally. At last.
Oh, I made it. I didn't get all the gold, but who
hungers.
cares?
Now quickly, head through that door. The exit to the surface lies just beyond.
It'll be good to see the sun again.
Remember, Illidan and the true battle still await us in the world above. Hopefully our trek through the Dark Earth bought us the precious time we needed.
Ugh. That was stressful. Very stressful. Interlude. Boiling Point. Hours later, near the base of the ice-crowned glacier, King Arthas and Anubarak finally reach the main stronghold of the Scourge.
We've made it, Anubarak. Our forces are already assembled and waiting.
Greetings, King Arthas. You've arrived just in time. Illidan's Naga and Blood Elf forces have taken up positions at the base of the glacier and...
Arthas, my champion, you have come at last.
Master?
There is a fracture in my prison, the frozen throne, and my energies are seeping from it. That is why your powers have diminished.
But how?
The rune blade Frostmourne was once locked inside the throne as well. I thrust it from the ice, so that it would find its way to you. and then lead you to me. And so it has. Now we face a grave danger. My creator, the Demon Lord Kil'jaeden, sent his agents here to destroy me. If they should reach the Frozen Throne before you, all will be lost. The Scourge will be undone. Now hurry. I will grant you all the power I can spare.
I saw another vision of the Lich King. He has restored my powers. I know now what I must do. It's time to end the game. Once and for all.
Well, I mean, technically there's the bonus campaign after this, so that's not ending the game. There's still the Orc campaign, I know that. I don't know if there's any other campaigns after this one besides that. Alright, so that does it overall for this 3-part chapter. I will see you guys in the 8th and what I'm assuming is final chapter of the Scourge campaign. Guys, have a good one.